411 Live.
Where you can learn about issues that impact us every day. State of world, 411 Live.
Real people, real talk.
Made to help people in our community in every way. For your girl, 411 Live.
You know, if you drive around, you can see a church building, not every corner, but you see a lot of them as you drive along. But what about the role of the church beyond Sunday services and the sanctuary walls? Hello, I'm Beverly Taylor. This is the 411 Live, real people, real talk. I have some outstanding, dynamic leaders joining me today to talk a little bit about that. Two pastors, Pastor Darryl Seay of Liberty and Truth Ministries, and Pastor Curt Owens of UFlourish Church. And this is a second go-around for you because you were here before, Curt. Yes. Do you guys mind if I call you by your first names?
Absolutely.
That's what Mama told me. She called me Darryl. She didn't name me Pastor.
Right.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about the role of a church in the community. And, so much is happening right now. If you look at the news, every day, something's happening. Stock market, something's happening. And a lot of people are on edge. And a lot of people are wondering, what's going to happen to me? Will jobs be affected? Just a lot of things are going around. And I think when we talked, I said sometimes when people are in that space, they kind of gravitate towards the church because they feel like there's nothing they can do themselves about it. So this kind of is, people are primed, so to speak, a lot of people. Some people don't care, but some people are. And then it's looking at the role of the church to connect with communities and just talking about how well churches do that. And I know neither one of you are going to name out any churches who aren't doing it well, and I don't want you to, right? But we're just talking about, what that looks like, what it should be. And you guys are pastors, and you're working through it too. Yes. But you've done some really outstanding things, I believe, to connect with the communities that you're in. So that's why you're here, and that's why we want to talk about this. So for both of you, can each of you share kind of your thoughts on boots on the ground? Because it seems like you guys both have that boots on the ground mentality, not inside the building, but out. So talk a little bit about that.
You want to start or you want me to start?
You want to flip forward? No, go ahead.
Well, so here's the mindset that I have. It's really based on Scripture. Number one, 95% of Jesus' ministry happened outside of the religious institutions. Mm-hmm. He spent most of his time outside the walls of the temple, outside the walls of the synagogues. And if that's how Jesus, who is our role model, spent his time, that's how we should be spending our time. Number two, we're called to be salt and light. And if you're only being salt where the other salt is and light where the other light is, then you're really not having impact. You're not impacting change. And so I believe the mission of the church is to go make disciples,
right? Not
stay and gather sheep. And so we have to be out there finding out what the real needs are, spending time with the people, getting to know the people, meeting them where they are and sharing with them the love of Christ, first of all, and then the truth of the gospel, secondly.
Yeah. Curt, why is boots on the ground so important to you?
Oh, man, I think for me is I'm a pastor's kid. I'm a pastor's grandkid, so I've been around the church my entire life, yet growing up in the church, I didn't feel like the church necessarily embraced me. It didn't seem like I measured up, and like everything was just really geared towards like church people. When it was finally introduced to me in a way that I could wrap my mind around the fact that Christ paid the price for imperfect people, and not necessarily, a perfect church, but people that come from all different walks of life. For me, it's like I wanted to make sure the world had an opportunity to experience that, and not just in a sermon, but actually in our interactions with people in community. And so for me, it was always about what does it look like to impact our communities outside the walls of the church. And as you mentioned earlier, there's so many problems and so many issues that's happening within our community. And how can the church best address some of those issues in the community without like bringing our Bibles and beating it over to people's head? Like, how can we, and as Pastor Darryl just spoke to, is like Jesus spent a lot of time outside of the walls addressing people issues. And so for us, it's like, how can we identify a problem that's in our community, and how can we start working towards fixing that problem, and not with the mindset that I want to get people to sit in the pews of my church. You don't ever have to walk in the doors of my church. I want to get people, through the doors of the kingdom. And so with that mindset and trying to be the hands and feet of Jesus in our community, I think that's what really impacts our community, and that's what changes our community. It's just that the love of the gospel and people experiencing the love of the gospel, as opposed to just hearing the message of the gospel. Eventually they'll hear the message, but I want them to feel it and experience it. Yeah,
I like that. All right. So, Darryl, you said, how can a church be in the body of Christ and not in the community? So what does that mean in action with Liberty and Truth Ministries?
For us, it means actually, I'll give you a prime example. We were on Fond du Lac Avenue for 20 years. While we were on Fond du Lac Avenue, we went out into the community around where we were located to meet the people, to do a needs assessment, to see what was going on, to hear from them, and to find ways to connect with them. Last year, we relaunched and relocated to Medford. It's about 6 blocks from where we were, but it's a new community. And so before we started telling them we're doing X, Y, and Z, we went and said, hey, how are you? Who are you? How do we help you? What do you need? What's going on in your community? And actually listening to them and finding out what are the strengths they have that we can then partner with to bring about difference and real transformation in the community, because help without transformation leaves the people still hopeless.
That's good. That's
it's
good.
actually listening to and learning from them, and not coming in as the savior and not coming in as the one who has the answers. I've got questions. You've got answers. Let's work together to bring a solution.
And that is actually the opposite of a lot of how a lot of organizations work. They feel like they have the answers and they're pushing it. And then the folks who are supposed to receive it are like, well, what is this?
We don't need this.
Right. Yep. Okay. So, Pastor, Curt.
That works. Either way, right?
There was when you were on the podcast before, and we talked about the moment, because your journey, you worked outside of Milwaukee, you were in Sussex, you had an idea of how you would be received, and it was totally opposite. You were received positively, and it had an impact on you, and it kind of the foundation, I think, for bridge builders. How did that materialize?
Well, Bridge Builders materialized for me is it was my second church plant. I planted 3 churches in my lifetime that I've actually pastored, but it was during the time of my second church plant. And that church at that particular time was predominantly white, and we were coming into my community of where I actually lived, even though I was planning on moving to Grafton. My wife and I were planning on moving to Grafton after about 25 years in the same neighborhood. And so I started doing informational sessions in my neighborhood about the new church that we're going to be planting, and somebody from the neighborhood showed up and just really lit into me. I was essentially the black face for a white church, going to make a bunch of promises, and we're going to leave. And the funny thing about it is I was intending on leaving.
Right.
I was moving to Grafton, and man, God checked me that day, because that guy didn't get off of me until I told him I lived around the corner. Wow. And I heard myself say I lived around the corner. And I remember going home that day, and I told my wife, I'm like, I don't think we're called to leave. And she's like, you sure you're hearing from the Lord? Like, I'm pretty sure. And so at that moment, I decided to, take some ownership in my community. And rather than looking at my community as it just gone to hell in a handbasket and I got to get out of here, I looked at it as I'm light and I'm looking at my neighborhood as darkness, and I'm called to bring light to it. And I start knocking on doors and trying to get to know people and hear their hearts. And the more and more I did that, the more I realized on the square block, there's about 36 houses. 28 houses were suffering in silence, and there was 8 houses that were problematic. And so I connected with suburban churches from all over the country, and I just started bringing missionaries in, and we started painting garages and replacing garage doors, and drug deals that were happening in the alley stopped because, I might have 40 white people in the alley off 40th and Hampton, and for whatever reason, the drug dealers, they didn't like that. So so I just began to start it was a grassroots movement. We were not an organization at the time. Church decided that they would not adopt our block, and that's when I just decided, you know what, this is my community. I'm going to do this with or without the church. And that was my first moment where it hit me. I don't know if the church can do this.
Yeah.
I don't want this getting cut out the church's budget. I don't want church politics to be involved in community warfare. And that's when I decided I need to start an organization outside of the church. And this is going to be ran by people that's not necessarily connected to the church. I needed community-minded people actually to press upon and make change in this community. And just one thing led to another, and we started purchasing property in the community, renovating those properties. And of course, other residents started hearing what we were doing, and they wanted to be involved. And it just kind of took a life of its own. But in that process, what really began to happen is like these partnerships between urban and suburban communities were really taking shape. And this was happening during the time where our country was really, really divided. And I know we're going through that time again, but when Bridge Builders was launched, it was the first go round where it was really a divisive time. But we were bringing people together, during that time. And so I was just blown away to see what God was doing. And I knew at that point in time that like we could make big impact in our communities through a united approach of people who sit on different sides of the aisle could actually come together and solve problems.
Right. Speaking of that, Pastor Darryl, you have been involved in coalitions with I think groups like the whole Southeast with pastors that are multiracial. And I think both of your congregations are too.
Yes.
So how does that play in a role? Because I don't think God is saying, okay, you're black, okay, you come, or you're brown, so you come here. He's not. He loves us all. And sometimes, our churches Sunday very segregated.
Very.
So this is the whole thing of bringing in this rainbow in. How important is that?
Well, let's put it like this. When you get to heaven, I promise you there won't be a black heaven and a white heaven and a Hispanic heaven and an Asian heaven. There's just going to be one. All people, all nations, all tribes worshiping God. And if that's what the church looks like in heaven, then it really should look like that here on the earth. And that's one of the connections between Curt and I, is that we both are 100% committed to having churches on earth look like the church in heaven. If we're going to spend eternity together, shouldn't we find a way to worship the Lord together here?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we find a way to represent Christ well together here in the community? So we partner with churches from all southeast Wisconsin to make a difference. We go out into the community together. We do events together. On Good Friday, we're going to be partnered with 2 other churches to have a time of worship and prayer for our community together. And so I just feel like, I am strongly convicted that we must show a divided nation what it really looks like to be the kingdom.
Yeah.
We got to show it. Talking it is easy, but will you actually show it?
Yeah.
Will you put down your preferences enough to join together with people who don't look like you, don't think like you, don't talk like you, to actually represent Christ well and share him with others?
I like that. I like that. Okay. We're going to take a short break, come back, and I'm going to talk with the two pastors that I have more about church, the role, and the community. Stay with us. You're listening to the 411 Live.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/team up.
I never got a college degree. Now I'm the CEO of my own company. People want to tell me I'm one in a million, when actually I'm one of millions.
You know what's been on my mind? Gun injuries and gun suicides are going up among teens. If a kid is angry or keeping to themselves, make sure they don't have access to a gun.
Keeping guns stored securely feels like the simplest way to protect everyone.
Welcome back to the 411 Live. I'm talking with Pastor Darryl Seay of Liberty and Truth Ministries and Pastor Curt Owens of UFlourish Church and founder of Bridge Builders. Couple of things that I want to talk about. We're talking about how churches, the mission, you got to engage in your community. What happens when a church does not engage in the community?
I'm going to let you start this.
I think there was something that was said to me, and I don't know who quoted it, but I remember it being said, and I think the question was, what would happen if your church ceased to exist in the community? Would anybody recognize? Would anybody in the community recognize anything other than there's more parking spots available in front of their house?
Oh, wow.
And so that was just something that was really profound at that point in time. And I would say that, and ever since that time, every time I look at a church, no matter how beautiful it is in the city of Milwaukee, I always look at the community surrounding it.
Mm-hmm.
What does the community, what does the homes look like? What kind of impact is that church actually having in that community? So I'm always looking at that. So I just think if we don't have a community-minded focus as opposed to just this insular focus, let's just work on each other, then it's just a bunch of people meeting at a building and actually having like zero impact on the community for which surrounds it. And sometimes I just think we miss that. We drive in, have a good time with one another, and drive back out to wherever our homes are at, as opposed to engaging with that community. And so I think a church presence should be felt in the community in some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just jump in. I'm going to give an anecdotal example of it. So a couple of weeks ago, I was having a meeting with an organization that I help, and there was a knock on the front door of our church because one of the neighbors saw cars on the lot. And I paused my meeting with an organization. I said, I need to go see what's going on. I went upstairs. It was one of our neighbors who happens to be an 80-year-old woman who's lived in the neighborhood 40 years. Mm-hmm. And she said, I need to come in. I just need to come in. I need to pray. I need to talk. And so I opened the door. I said, I'm in a meeting, but you're welcome to stay and go in the sanctuary and pray. I prayed with her before going back down to the meeting, let her stay in the sanctuary. She stayed there for about an hour. She called down to me. She said, Pastor, I got to go, but thank you. I went up and told her, okay, you're gone. She said, yes. I said, okay, I'll see you next time.
Oh, wow.
So because the church was in the community and she knew it was a safe place, this woman who was in crisis at the time had a place to come and experience the love of Christ. So when the church is in the community and it doesn't have an impact, the community continues to suffer in silence without any real hope. And so the community remains hopeless while the church puts up the facade of really making a difference.
Yeah.
But it's a facade because you're not making a difference because while you're gathering, the community's not being changed.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. How can a church really see a neighborhood? You were talking earlier about assessment. What does that look like?
For me, it looks like actually going to where the people are, knocking on their doors, talking to them, asking them what the needs of the community are, asking them what strengths they have to help meet those needs, and asking them what would it look like if we were actually meeting the needs of this community. So it's not going saying, here's what we do, but what do you need?
Right.
And what do you have that you're willing to give to make a difference? That's what it looks like for us. And so we've done that now 3 different times in our new neighborhood because how do you really help people if you don't really know what their needs are?
Right. And, and I get the part of going out and asking them their needs, but that element of asking them what they have or what they contribute that could help, that's another piece that's I don't think everybody gets. Because, if I have something and somebody taps into that, then I'm like, oh, yeah, I do this. But if you never ask me, I may not tell you, and you may never know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, here's what happens. Often the church treats people as being deficient, as being always needy, but everybody has something they do well.
Right.
If it's nothing more than talking on the phone. Maybe they make greens well.
Right.
But I make the best greens in my family. Well, that's something you do well.
Right.
And everybody has a strength. Yeah. And when we don't approach people from a strengths perspective, we end up making them victims and not victors. And everybody wins. Everybody wants to win. Everybody has something they have to offer. And I believe that that's what Jesus did so well. He saw the 4 cousins fishing. He said, come follow me. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make you fishers of men. You already know how to fish for fish. Now I'm going to take what you do well and teach you how to do it for men.
Yeah. And I'm sure as you're going out, you find people with all kinds of talents.
Absolutely. I think it's really important to take an assets-based approach to transformation in the community. It's really, really important. That's part of our what we call 7 steps to transformation. And for us, that first part is like being present. And so part of that for us was like just even going out into the streets, picking up garbage. Because when I knocked on your door, I wanted people to know, oh, that's the guy that picks up the garbage in the neighborhood. And so just always being present so people knew we were there. The second part was like engagement. And after engagement, the third part for us was listen. But the fourth part for us was like to assess, and that's where we really began to start assessing the community, see what assets that already existed in our community. And it was then that we learned that we got electricians in our community, of which we use even to this day, plumbers and contractors and guys that do remodel kitchens and bathrooms. And we use all of these like one-person crews who don't even have to leave the neighborhood now to get work. And they're helping rebuild the community in some of the dilapidated property. So it's really, really important, I think, to really assess, because people are going to get involved on the level that they're comfortable with. And sometime in the church we always looking for volunteers. We want to take somebody and have them making coffee or have them be a greeter when actually they got some other skills that they could use that could be much more beneficial than being a greeter.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that is true. I have a rapid round I want to do with you guys. Okay, so with each question, give me one word or one sentence answers. What does the church of the future look like?
Diverse and adaptable.
Loving.
Okay. What's one scripture that guides your outreach?
We are the salt of the earth. We are the light of the world.
And for me, I would say just Matthew 28, the Great Commission.
Yeah. One thing a church can do this week to start serving outside its walls.
Walk their neighborhood, knock on doors.
Meet a new neighbor.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Oh, I did give you a sentence. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You did fine.
You did both. You did great.
What's the biggest challenge in keeping community-centered philosophy in ministry?
I'm going to say navel gazing.
Elaborate.
Being internally focused.
Ah, okay. Yeah, okay.
I would almost have to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I would have to say the same thing.
Okay. Darryl, you have a book, and it's called Radical Faith, Learning How to Trust God Radically. Okay? So how has radical faith kept you steady through obstacles?
Now, this is the rapid round, though, right?
No, this is...
I'm going to say one sentence. Wow.
This is not the rapid round.
Okay.
You can elaborate.
I was going to say, man, that was, talk about a curveball. One of the gifts God has given me is the gift of faith. Mm-hmm. Our ministry has always been what people would consider a small church, but we have seen God do supernatural things because of the level of faith in which we operate. We have bought and paid for a building. We own 5 properties total. We have purchased a building that we weren't supposed to be able to purchase. We have served thousands of people over the years that we don't have the capacity on paper to serve, and it's all because just as Abraham had to trust God radically, I've had to trust God radically.
Yeah. We're almost out of time, like 1 minute. So, Curt, I'm going to give you the last word.
Oh, I would just say if we're talking about church and the role that it has in the community, and I'm big on church planting, and you know, so I would always say anyone who has any inkling of starting a church is that you identify a need in your community first and figure out how you're going to solve that need in the community first before you start gathering people to sit in your pews.
Good. That's good advice. If people want to find out more about your church or where you're located, tell me your location and your website.
Location 7017 West Medford, website ltmmke.com.
Okay.
And we're located at 3105 West Thurston Avenue, and our website is helpinguflourish.org.
Okay, and the U is the letter U.
The letter U. Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So they remind us that church is not a building, it's a movement. It's been a pleasure. Thank you both for giving us this time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks
it's
for
been a great
having us.
conversation.
Thank you so much for having us.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of the 411 Live. Remember, we're a nonprofit organization, so if you would like to partner with us, go to our website, the411live.org. And until next time, I'm Beverly Taylor. This is the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. God bless. If you would like to check out past episodes, there are many ways. Go to your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Like and watch us on Facebook. Watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have suggestions for future episodes, go to our website, the411live.org.